This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain an action, adventure, and sci-fi film called Edge of Tomorrow. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. An asteroid delivers an alien species called mimics that seems intent on taking over the planet. Military from all over the world call up arms to fight their new enemy, but only obtain victory after 5 years of warfare. Major William Cage promises that their newly developed mech suits will pave the way to stopping the alien invasion. Rita Vrataski becomes the new face of hope after killing hundreds of mimics during her first day of combat in Verdun. The army has held off the mimics from crossing the English Channel and is now preparing for Operation Downfall, where they intend to rid the aliens for good. Before Operation Downfall begins, Cage arrives at the United Defense Force headquarters in London and meets with General Brigham. Brigham mournfully expects many casualties during the battle and that the public will want someone like him to blame for it. Cage suggests creating a story to earn Brigham the public's favor, but Brigham clarifies that he doesn't want Cage to create a marketing campaign for him. Instead, he needs Cage to market the operation. Brigham intends to send Cage on the field in France to record the first wave of the operation, guaranteeing his safety since they detect minimal mimic activity there. Cage stresses that he does ad campaigns for the army specifically to avoid the front lines. Brigham clarifies that his mission is an order and Cage's commanding officer has already approved it. Cage is stunned and tries to bargain by implying that he can create a campaign to blame Brigham for the soldier's death. Thinking that his blackmail worked, Cage walks out the door and is surprised when Brigham orders his men to arrest him. Cage tries to escape but gets tased and knocked out. Cage wakes up in the military base in Heathrow and is mistaken as a fresh recruit. He meets Master Sergeant Farrell and demands a phone call to his commanding officer. However, Farrell reveals that Cage has been demoted to private and reports claim that he'll do anything to get out of combat duty. Farrell takes him to his bunk and introduces him to the J Squad, composed of Kimmel, Griff, Nance, Ford, Skinner, and Kuntz. Farrell declares that Cage will be joining them and assigns a squad to make him combat ready by tomorrow. The next day, the J Squad suits up in their mech suits to begin Operation Downfall. On the way to the beach, Skinner mocks Cage, calling him a dead guy. The rest of the squad taunts him that no one will be watching his back. Cage asks Kimmel how to turn the safety off on his suit, but before he can answer, the floor opens up. Before Farrell can drop them, something hits the plane, forcing everyone to eject. Cage freezes as he sees a few men dying during the drop, leaving him the last man to eject from the plane. Cage gets thrown in numerous directions before landing on the beach. While trying to make sense of things, Cage witnesses Kimmel getting crushed by another plane. Cage staggers his way to the battle, watching soldiers die along his way. A plane spirals out of control towards them, so Cage hurriedly drops into a pit to avoid it. Cage's helmet emits feedback as he hears soldiers requesting help. He takes the helmet off and sees Rita battling a mimic. Rita gets thrown off by the alien, but she blows it up with her firearm. Rita finds Cage just before a projectile hits her. Panicked, Cage heads back to the sea, but Farrell stops him, redirecting him to the battle. He reunites with J Squad in a trench where Griff wonders how the mimics knew they were arriving. As Farrell barks commands, Cage weakly asks how to turn the safety off, but everyone ignores him. Nance detects mimics coming in fast, so they get into position. Cage struggles with controls in his mech suit when he sees a mimic coming out from the ground behind the squad. The mimic slaughters the squad one by one while Cage backs away. He finally turns the safety off and shoots down the mimic. He laughs triumphantly when he kills the creature, however a larger one comes out. More mimics gather around him, and his mech suit is out of bullets. Cage spots a bomb beside him and grabs it just before the mimic lunges. The bomb explodes between him and the mimic, causing the mimic's blood to spill on him while Cage disintegrates. Cage wakes up screaming back in the Heathrow base. He's greeted the same way as the day before. Confused, he asks Farrell what day it is, and Farrell answers that it's Judgment Day while showing the report that marked him as a deserter. Cage tries to tell Farrell that he already lived this day, but he realizes that Farrell still believes that he'll say anything to get out of combat. During the flight to the beach, the squad ridicules him the same way. The plane is hit again before they're deployed, and Cage ejects himself. He tries to warn Kimmel about the plane, but he's too late. Cage then evades the next plane that crashes and sees Rita in battle. He saves her from the projectile, but his armor gets hit instead. Rita takes his suit's battery to replace her own and leaves him to die at the hands of another mimic. Cage wakes up in Heathrow again and immediately confronts Farrell. Cage tells him who he is and points out the report that Farrell has before he even presents it, hoping to convince Farrell that he's lived through the day already. Still, Farrell isn't convinced and drags him to meet the J Squad. Cage then displays his knowledge about the squad, including the squad's hidden playing cards. Despite this, Cage is forced into a mech suit and the plane the next day with duct tape over his mouth. He tries to warn them about the plane getting hit, but the tape muffles him. He finally removes the tape just before the plane explodes, then ejects himself out as soon as it does. Cage pushes Kimmel out of the incoming plane's way but gets crushed by it instead. After multiple iterations of the same day, Cage successfully saves Kimmel and Rita without getting killed. He warns Rita that they'll all get killed while he fires at the mimics that find them without looking at them. Rita gets quietly curious about his knowledge of events and tells Cage to find her when he wakes up again just before they die in an explosion. On the next loop, Cage walks ahead of Farrell and hides the squad's playing cards before Farrell finds them. He becomes amicable to everyone, so Farrell leaves without further remarks. During a jog with the squad, Cage insults Farrell so the squad is forced to do push-ups. During this, Cage rolls under the passing jeep but miscalculates and gets run over. He tries it again on the next loop and successfully slips out of Farrell's sight. He finds Rita training in the middle of the shooting range, so he walks up to her. Cage tells her that she told him to find her when he wakes up, catching her attention. Rita walks with Cage and warns him not to tell anyone else what he is experiencing, lest he gets thrown in the psych ward or dissected. She figures that he killed a mimic and got covered in its blood before the first reset. Rita reveals that she experienced the same thing, but she lost the ability already. Rita takes him to the mech suit warehouse to meet Dr. Carter. Rita tells Carter that Cage has the same ability she had before. Carter is an expert in mimic biology and knows about the time looping skill. They explain that the mimics are fighting as a single entity. The drones are the usual fighters, but there are the alphas like the one Cage killed. The alphas send the command to the drones from the Omega, which controls the entire species. The Omega can control time and restart the day whenever an alpha is killed. The Omega retains its memories, that's why they haven't won over the mimics except in Verdun. Rita explains they won at Verdun only because the Omega wanted them to believe that they could win and throw everything into Operation Downfall. When Cage killed the Alpha, he entered the Omega's nervous system, therefore he can reset the day by dying. Cage suggests taking the information to the general, but Rita reveals she's done it and failed numerous times. Carter explains that the Omega can sense when it's losing control, therefore it's already searching for Cage. When it's close to finding him, Cage will see visions that will also show him where the Omega is. Rita insists that she knew where the Omega was, but she lost the power before they could get to it. By the time they arrived in Verdun to kill it, the Omega was gone. Rita tells Cage that he has to take her to Omega so she can kill it, but Cage reveals that he's not trained for combat. Hearing this, Rita forces him into training. Cage struggles to reload his weapon during training and gets knocked out. He gets thrown back by the automated machine and breaks his back. Rita tells him that he must make sure he dies if he ever gets injured. She reveals that she lost the ability after being wounded in battle and getting a blood transfusion, therefore losing the Alpha's blood. Rita then shoots him so Cage wakes up in another reset. Over the next resets, Rita continues to train Cage, and every time he gets wounded, she kills him to reset the day. Cage lives through the same day countless times until finally he gets his first vision. On the next reset, he tells Rita and Carter that the Omega is in a dam in Germany. While Carter figures out which dam it is, Rita tells Cage to figure out how they can get out of the battle the next day to hunt it down. Cage lives through the battle on the beach several times to figure out a safe path for them to escape. After seeing her die multiple times, Cage starts to doubt if they're doing things right. On the morning of the battle, Cage escapes into the city and drinks in a pub. The other patrons theorize on what the mimics want, but Cage tells them that it's pointless since the mimics will win no matter what. Suddenly, the power flickers. Cage heads out and sees the mimics speeding into town. Cage gets killed and resets the day again. Cage easily wins the combat training and confirms that Carter has found the dam where the Omega is, but he has lost hope. The next day, Cage and Rita easily defeat several mimics and save the J Squad. They make it out of the beach and split up to find a car. Rita successfully starts the van she finds, so she picks up Cage and drives away. Suddenly, a mimic attacks them, so Cage shoots it down. Once they reach a quiet road, Cage tells Rita that she opened up to him once, but Rita denies the details he claims, thinking that she made them up to keep him quiet. He brings up Hendrix, but Rita tells him that she doesn't want to talk about him because she watched him die hundreds of times. Once they're out of fuel and their mech suits are out of battery, they leave the car and suits behind and head into a house. Rita finds a helicopter and insists on taking it to the dam, though they don't have the keys. Cage notices her flinching and discovers that she got shot in the shoulder. After tending to her wound, Cage notes that even if they reach the dam, they don't have their suits to fight. He suggests resting in the house and living another day. Rita realizes that they've been in that house before, so Cage reveals that he already has the helicopter keys. She scolds him for wasting time, but Cage explains that she always dies when they take the helicopter. Still, she heads out and prepares the vehicle. He reminds her that she'll be permanently dead if he kills the Omega. Rita insists that it doesn't matter, so Cage hints that he doesn't want to see her die. Rita starts the helicopter and a mimic attacks her. Cage tries to save her, but the helicopter crashes anyway. Cage kills the mimic and finds Rita dying. He holds her in his arms just before another mimic kills Cage. Cage lives another reset and approaches Rita, but he simply walks away this time. On the morning of the battle, Cage tells Griff to get him more ammunition and an extra battery. On the battlefield, he allows Kimmel to die and eventually reaches the house and helicopter alone. He kills the mimics before starting the helicopter. However, when he reaches the dam, he finds it empty. A drone attacks him but restrains from killing him, knowing that his death will reset the day. Suddenly, an Alpha appears and stops Cage from shooting himself. The Alpha's attack has him bleeding from the arm, so Cage squeezes himself under the pipes and drowns himself to reset the day. Cage tells Carter and Rita that the dam is a trap and that the Alpha attempted to bleed him out to make him lose the power. Rita suggests using a device Carter invented to link him to the Omega, but Carter only has a prototype. Rita and Cage infiltrate the Ministry of Defense to get Carter's finished device that got confiscated. After doing it numerous times, Cage coordinates Rita to avoid detection until they reach Brigham. While holding him at gunpoint, Cage reveals his ability to reset the time. To convince him, Cage predicts Brigham's phone call and the files his secretary is about to give him. Cage tells Brigham that no matter how many times they've had this conversation, he doesn't listen and they will end up losing the battle the next day. He points to Brigham's safe, saying that what's inside will save them. Brigham humors him and takes out Carter's device from the safe. After doubting Cage's claims, Brigham hands him the device. Cage admits to Rita that he never got that far, so he doesn't know what happens next. They leave the ministry but get cornered by soldiers, prompting Rita to shoot Cage. In the next reset, they take a car to leave the building. While driving away, Rita orders him to stab the device on his leg. When he does, Cage finally sees that the Omega is under the Louvre in Paris. They drive out of the building but get stopped by a soldier in a mech suit. The crash knocks him out. Cage wakes up and finds out that he got a blood transfusion. Cage desperately tries to free himself from his bindings but ends up toppling his bed. Rita finds him and moves to kill him, but he tells her that he has lost the power already. The two escape and plot how to kill the Omega before the invasion. Cage meets up with J-Squad and convinces them that he knows everything about them. He reveals that they'll all die tomorrow, but he gives them a chance to win by killing the Omega. Still, Griff is skeptical since he doesn't know Cage, so Cage tells them to at least trust Rita. The squad takes a plane to Paris before Operation Downfall begins. When they near the Louvre, mimics attack their plane, so everyone ejects. With his mech suit not hooked to the plane, Cage ends up crashing with the plane and gets dropped into the water. Cage reunites with the squad, but they're already low on ammunition and have lost Nance, Kimmel, and Kuntz. Rita urges the squad to continue despite the odds. They use an abandoned plane to reach the Louvre, while Skinner and Griff fight off the mimics to buy them time. When they run out of ammo, Skinner activates a bomb, killing themselves and some mimics. Cage shoots the mimics that get near, but Ford is eventually captured. The plane crashes into the Louvre and Cage and Rita rush into the garage. An Alpha blocks their path, so Rita insists on distracting it to allow Cage to kill the Omega. Before leaving, she thanks Cage and kisses him. The Alpha chases after Rita when she runs, allowing Cage to rush to the Omega. Rita hides from the Alpha, but it finds her and kills her. Seeing her die, Cage hesitates before jumping into the water. He swims deep inside to reach the Omega at the bottom, but the Alpha follows him. The Alpha stabs him on the side just as Cage drops the grenade. The Omega explodes, killing all Alphas and drones as well. Cage floats in the water with the Omega's blood enveloping his body. Cage wakes up in the helicopter to London 2 days earlier. He watches Brigham announce that the mimics have perished after a huge wave of energy was detected in Paris. Cage heads to the Heathrow base and finds the entire J-Squad is still alive. He then goes to the training hall where he finds Rita alive, but she doesn't recognize him. Cage laughs, glad to see that everything turned out well.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.